Hello everyone, and welcome back to another 20-minute strength exercise tutorial. Today we're looking at the single leg glute bridge. You may have already done the glute bridge exercise before if you've done our first phase of 20-minute strength. This is just going to make things a little bit harder. So the single leg glute bridge is a really good exercise for single leg strength, particularly in the glutes and hamstrings, so up the back of the leg. What this exercise also does is really strengthen the little stabilizer muscles in the inside and outside of the thighs and glutes. Strengthening the glutes and hamstrings, as well as all these little stabilizer muscles in the legs, is really important for your everyday tasks such as getting up, changing direction, speeding up your walk, but also they're great in terms of progressing any sports or activities you enjoy. So I'll show you a couple of variations later on, but we're going to start with just a body weight single leg glute bridge. So we're going to come down to our mat, and you're going to lie on your back and bring the feet fairly close together, so maybe just inside hips width. This creates a nice stable base for once we get up into our bridge position. What I want you to think about here is really scooping the pelvis up and extending the hips towards the ceiling. This is really important because this is going to put the weight of the exercise into our glutes. So our glutes are going to be loaded rather than our lower back. If we just think about driving our stomach up to the ceiling, this just puts a little bit too much load and too much pressure in the lower back and not enough in the glutes, which is what we actually want to be working here. So what you can imagine is you're thinking about peeling up each vertebra at a time from the floor, starting at your tailbone and slowly scooping up the pelvis to work your way up and into the lower back. With this scoop, my glutes are engaged, I can feel it working in my hamstrings, but there's very little load or pressure in my lower back. So that's really what you want to be aiming for in this starting position. Now, the reason we have the feet slightly closer together is because we're actually going to be lifting one foot up off the floor. Now, you can have it in this 90-degree angle here if you like, or you can just extend it or keep it hovering above the floor, whatever suits you, whatever your level of challenge is currently. In this position here, we're going to think about driving the hip up towards the ceiling as much as we can, like we're trying to extend and drive our hip through before slowly lowering back down, thinking about each vertebra at a time in reverse now, touching down to the floor, finishing with our tailbone. We're going to go for our second rep here by tucking the tailbone, squeezing the glutes, driving those hips up towards the ceiling or the sky, wherever you are, and really thinking about sending that hip through and up to create a nice long line from your knee back down to your chin. I'll just repeat on the other side so you can see what it looks like from this angle. Big drive of the hip up, squeezing that glute, the hamstring switched on, slowly lowering down one vertebra at a time. Last rep here, squeezing that glute, really thinking about pulling the heel back towards you, like I'm trying to get my heel back up towards the back of my head to really switch on the hamstring and get the hamstring helping the glute out here, and then slowly lower down. Now, if that variation feels slightly too difficult at this point, you can always just regress it back to a glute bridge. So you'd have both feet planted and you'd perform the standard glute bridge with the power of both legs, still with that same pelvis tuck, but just a little bit extra stability and support. If you wanted to make the exercise harder, we could either use a resistance band or a dumbbell or heavy object that you have lying around the house. And I'll show you how to do that now. So with a weight, it's going to be nice and simple, whether you have a dumbbell or just a heavy object. For instance, in this case, I'm going to be using a 1.5 litre bottle of water. And we can also use a resistance band to increase the intensity as well. Now, these are going to be slightly different just because the band is going to create most resistance at the top. The heavy object or dumbbell is going to have pretty much the same resistance all the way through. Totally your preference. See which one you do prefer if you have both available. If not, they're both perfectly good ways of increasing the level of challenge in this single leg glute bridge. So if you're going to take your heavy object, you're going to set up just the same. You're going to place that object just on your hip bone as a kind of shelf, and then go through your reps again, driving the hip up, slowly lowering down. Just show you on this side, weight is secure on this nice hip shelf with your hands on top of it, or you could have one hand out for stability if you like. Just hold on to the weight with the other, drive those hips up towards the ceiling, and then slowly lower back down. With the resistance band, you're going to create a kind of circular loop with both sets of the band. So if you have it nice and long, just perform that twisting motion and then bring the band together. So you've got a shorter loop. You're then going to hook it round the foot on the leg that's performing the exercise, and then just bring that band over your other knee, and then both sets of hips. So this leg can kind of be out of the equation. You can either keep it tucked under the band or just have it up and away from you, and then firmly plant the working leg down and then drive those hips up. You'll feel that resistance increase as you go up through the exercise, and then slowly lower back down to a point where there's little to no resistance. Big drive up, and then slowly lower back down. As I said, if any of these exercises feel uncomfortable or painful, definitely pull them back a bit. Go back to the glute bridge if you prefer, or sub it in for a squat or a lunge that's less painful. This exercise can be particularly challenging for those with a lower back problem because it's a really difficult kind of technique to learn. But once you get this nailed down, you'll be absolutely fine, and you should be able to progress it quite quickly. As always, make sure to follow us for more of these exercise tutorials. Subscribe to our page to make sure you get the notifications. And if you haven't already signed up to 20 Minute Strength, head over to our website and find out how you can get strong in just 3 20-minute workouts a week. Bye.